Hello and welcome to another edition of WoodChat. I'm Georgia.
And I'm Sam, and today we're here to talk about an important initiative driven by Forest and Wood Products Australia. It's all about ensuring emerging industry leaders are given opportunities to learn firsthand about the latest advancements in timber happening worldwide.
Each year, Forest and Wood Products Australia sponsors students to attend the World Conference on Timber Engineering, which we'll be just referring to as WCTE for the purposes of this podcast.
For the uninitiated, WCTE is the world's premier forum for presenting and discussing the latest technical and architectural developments and innovations in wood or timber construction. It's the most prestigious international event in timber engineering, engineered wood products, and the design of timber structures.
Yeah, that's right. It's held every 2 years in different countries and attracts researchers, engineers and architects, code consultants and building officials, contractors and project managers, fabricators and suppliers from all over the world.
For the last 8 years, Forest and Wood Products Australia funding has allowed outstanding post-grad students engaging in timber-focused research to apply for financial support to enable their attendance. In 2018, 8 lucky students were selected and awarded a $3,500 bursary to attend the event in Seoul, South Korea.
But why is this such an important initiative, not only for Forest and Wood Products Australia's perspective, but also for the Australian forestry industry more generally? We spoke to Alistair Woodard from Forest and Wood Products Australia's Wood Solutions education program to find out more.
Could you describe to me what the sort of bursary scheme is all about?
Sure. So the first Wood Conference in Timber Engineering project got up and running in 2010. That was when we first sort of brought this up as an initiative. And in 2010 it was in Italy.
Yep.
When we first started the project, it was based more around undergraduate students. So students in engineering, and a lot of the universities around Australia don't teach timber engineering. So pretty much the way you find is in each of the major cities you'll have 1 or 2 universities where timber engineering is a core subject. You'll have a couple of others where it might be elective, and then you'll have a few other unis that don't teach timber at all. They all teach steel and concrete, but not all of them teach timber. So that's our interest, to get more timber taught to students.
Yeah.
So we undertook this initiative to try and get some of these students exposed to timber engineering, so they really understood it was a major type of structural product, and also to get out and sort of see around the world what people were doing. It was good when we got students that came from universities that didn't teach timber, because it really opened their eyes up to something they sort of wouldn't have experienced otherwise. We did a competition where the students would write a short piece, I think it was 500 words, about a specific topic within the university. The university professor would then judge the individual submissions that they received, and then each university could submit one sort of their best ones into the group. That would then come to a group of engineers that we had that reviewed the different submissions, and from them they picked the different award winners.
And I know that you said that some of those students that were applying were coming from unis that didn't have any kind of, that wasn't even an elective to talk about timber. Do you think that that was a direct response to that? Was that something, do you think that they had recognised was kind of lacking in their education?
Yeah, I think definitely, and it was always interesting to see that those ones that came from unis that hadn't taught timber and they didn't know much about it were always so surprised just how amazing type of structures you could build with timber.
Yeah.
So I mean, ones that perhaps had seen it before, it wasn't as incredible for them, but those guys that had never been exposed to sort of big timber engineering projects were blown away by really what you could do with timber, which was terrific.
So in lots of ways it would have a completely different value to that kind of student, rather than someone who's already familiar with the benefits of timber and what can be done.
Absolutely, and then as part of the project also, the student, after they'd been to the conference, needed to go back to their university and provide a presentation about what they learned. So really there was a flow-on effect there where the excitement and enthusiasm of those students was taken back to their peers and to their lecturers. So that was a sort of great flow-on effect that we had.
Yeah. What do you hope that a student attending a conference like this will gain? What would be the kind of key takeaways or benefits?
I think one of the main sort of real benefits out of it is for each of them we had sort of 8 to 10 students on each of the trips that we've done, and it was a really good sort of group bond that came together. I mean, they all wore their Wood Solutions t-shirts, so everyone sort of stood out. Everyone knew they were students. They knew what they were there to be doing. To give them their credit, the students were hugely enthusiastic to get to as many different sessions as they could, to learn as much as they could, even though we were in quite exotic places where they could have gone off sightseeing. They didn't. They stuck to the conference, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
We had some quite good meetings with them about what did they want to learn, who did they want to meet, so we could introduce them to some of the international timber experts. They were obviously all very inspired from particularly the sort of keynote presentations, which were often very aspirational and inspirational, and we were able to introduce them to the people that presented that. So, overall, I think they got a really sort of good, broad mix of technical knowledge, academic knowledge, and sort of that networking capability, both with these international experts, but also with their peers, which was really valuable.
And then, so how about the industry in Australia? How does the industry stand to benefit from programs like this?
So over the years, the program's now been modified. We don't target undergraduate students at this point. So in the recent, the target was postgraduate students who were already doing research within timber. So on one hand, that was actually a lot more beneficial for them because they had specific things they wanted to learn, specific people they wanted to meet with. There were industry people there they could network with, both Australians and international people. So really, I guess in terms of value, flow on value to the industry, these people that are doing masters or PhDs in timber are going to go into the industry as well. So there was probably a higher level of benefit for them.
And how about the knowledge then that those students bring back?
Probably one of the most important things is the fact that they've met a lot of these people that are experts in the areas. I mean, there's one thing about reading an academic paper or seeing a presentation. There's another thing about being able to follow up with the person that gave that and talk about what they learned and how they did it, particularly the research techniques, the additional things that weren't in the paper. And obviously then knowing that face, you've got an email address or someone you can call right throughout your career if you want to, extend that work or get further information. So it really is a highly valuable networking event.
And so how about the students? How did their attendance impact on them? And what kind of learnings have they brought back to help benefit the Australian industry? We tracked a couple of them down to find out more.
One of the chosen 8 was Christopher Olowski of the University of Melbourne, and he kindly agreed to share his thoughts on the conference with us. Christopher is currently working with an industry partner on the development of a post-tensioned, also known as strengthened or reinforced, timber-based prefabricated panelised system for mid-rise structures. The aim of his research is to understand the current limitations and develop solutions to advance the use of this novel form of construction.
Thank you for agreeing to talk to us today, Christopher. First of all, I was just wanting to see if you might be able to tell us a bit about your own background.
Sure thing, Sam. I'm currently developing a stiffened engineered post-tensioned wall system. This project is run through the Centre of Advanced Manufacturing of Prefabricated Housing. It's based here at University of Melbourne, but it's engaging industry partners. And that kind of work that I'm doing there further develops my research and my thesis, which is on the aspects behind the understanding and design of these types of systems.
What are the benefits of those types of systems?
So the benefits of a stiffened engineered timber wall, as compared to CLT, for example, is that it's much more material efficient in that it has greater rigidity. Further to this, when we post-tension these systems, because they're so light, we're able to tie the building down to the foundations to prevent overturning in the cyclones, in wind events, and help self-center during earthquakes.
And so back to the conference then, what was the application process like? Was it quite involved?
The application was, I believe it was a single A4 introduction of myself, what my position is in the timber industry, what my interests and motivations are, how I can benefit from it, and how can the greater community, engineering timber community, benefit from it through my participation and explanation and delving into the information, and how can I promote it within the network that I have and the network that I have developed through Wood Solutions and FWPA.
And from there, what was the kind of next step?
I believe the next step was getting the email from Alistair, getting congratulated.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty kind of straightforward process then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I thought I was the perfect candidate, and I made that clear when I explained that. And I thought, all right, well, we're on the cusp of knowledge at the moment with what we're developing, and this conference is presenting knowledge just the same. And so I felt like I was the perfect fit for that.
What were your key learnings or most interesting takeaways from the conference?
Yes, so personally, with the post-tensioned stiffened engineered timber walls that we're working on, is that this post-tensioning system, it was originally developed to tie the building down to the foundation for, say, wind events, or just for construction purposes. So this is a panelized system. It's prefabricated, so when they're placed on site, the post-tensioning actually acts as the connection between the panels in the intermediary stage and also in the permanent stage too. Coming back from this conference, I've quite learned that you can actually use this post-tensioning system as a method of self-censoring for earthquake design, which we haven't really even considered in the past, but there's another benefit that we didn't really identify in the past for this type of system. The reason I probably haven't been exposed to this type of knowledge before is because of the local context here in Australia, but these are quite important for countries such as New Zealand or in Japan, or where they have higher seismic zones and they have to deal with earthquake issues.
Yep.
So that's an issue that we haven't had in Australia yet, but it's a major issue for timber buildings, and so these novel connections help mitigate these effects. And so it was really nice to see all the advanced research in these particular areas, which I have not been exposed to in the past. And really it can be quite useful, especially here in Melbourne, what I'm doing. We can export this type of system to New Zealand and redevelop over there, where the codes and requirements are much stronger for this area.
And I'm going to ask you a question now that would be great if you could answer from two different perspectives. So I was going to ask you what the kind of benefits are of attending a conference like this, but I suppose that's a two-part question, because the benefits for you personally are probably different to the benefits for the Australian industry in having people go. So first of all, from a personal perspective, what would you say were the main benefits?
Personally, because I'm finishing off my thesis here, it was really great to see all the literature that I've reviewed in the past, how it has been built on further to the current state of knowledge which was being presented. It's really good for me personally as well to see the way that people are presenting their final work, because as I draw near to the closure of my thesis, I'll also be doing a presentation on my main findings and conclusions. And from the perspective of the greater industry at large here in Australia, I'm quite active with the Wood Solutions program and the young professionals as well. So I network with different people in the industry quite often, and so I share my learnings too. For example, like I remember just telling somebody about all the acoustics that they were modelling that they were doing over there. And so the common problems are there, and because of the networking, I'm really happy to share what I learned, and I can get something back from others too, and seeing what their problems are and tailoring what I've learned to help them.
We called another student, Rebecca Cherry from the University of Southern Queensland, and asked her to share her most interesting takeaways from the conference, which should give you an idea as to the sheer scope of the topics covered.
Something that stood out for me was the use of digital technologies with timber. It's really exciting to see the advancements and the opportunities that they are starting to offer us. One looked at predicting strength of knots based just on their visual characteristics, so that can improve our grading and our understanding on a digital platform. Digital image correlation was another one that seemed to show up a fair bit. The digital image correlation, or DICs, was used for quite a range of things, for anything from material properties through to a full-scale building movement. There were some presentations using building information modelling for timber projects, and they were identifying some challenges, but they're also overcoming those challenges. There's a presentation there in relation to the construction process and the impact of weather and timing and how long a panel, like they're building a CLT building, so how long that timber can stay out in the weather, and how important it was to the mechanical properties, especially at joints. So that would be all wrapped up in the building information modelling process and the planning of a structure, making sure that the timber arrives at the right time and wasn't sitting out in the weather for long periods of time, or providing cover for the timber, so putting a roof on at early stages, or waterproofing, whether it be wrapping or providing another means of waterproofing the structure. In regards to all of that, we're only really at the beginning of where that technology can take us with timber, and I think that we've got a lot more potential, and I think there's opportunity for it to provide solutions and links from the plantation all the way through to the end of the life of the building. So even looking at harvesting and selection of the right log for the right process and optimisation of any of those processes and designing manufacture right through to the end of life, so monitoring and predicting the building performance over time. There were also some great work and examples showing parametric designs where the designers will be able to come up with some really unique forms. The one that was shown did some ceilings in a resort and gave a wave design.
We also caught up with Hala Yunus of La Trobe University, who shared her own insights on the conference.
I am a PhD candidate at La Trobe University, and I'm conducting research on timber structure engineering, focusing on strengthening timber elements using composite materials.
So what was it that inspired you to attend the conference?
Yeah, so I believe that attending conference like World Conference Timber Engineering will give me good access to latest technology in timber engineering, to see the update resources, knowledge, and see the last project in timber engineering.
What are your key learnings or takeaways from the conference?
Takeaways, well, based on my experience and study, I am very passionate about sustainability,